What's going on, everybody? Time for a YouTube recap. So let's get into it. What a choppy day. It's another one of those days that just proves that our technical analysis is nothing to perfectly timed Trump news and tweets, right? So starting off in the Discord here, we had some beautiful pre-market calls. This is where a lot of the money was made today, letting some big no-tag GPs come down here on our candles and running them back up to the golden pockets of yesterday's, which I always teach you and tell you and yell at you guys about, returning back to the prior daily pocket. So when we seen the big pre-market dip, we ended up longing the bottom of the pre-market to come back up to those golden pockets, and we looked for a few further long targets after that. So I put on a couple trades here for a 15-minute no GP for our crew, put out my entry, my exit. We ended up knocking out some beautiful pre-market gains on that. We broke down the trade like I always like to do in our Discord as well, where I tell members exactly where we're drawing our fibs, and we do this live. It's not just a text-based Discord. I stream this stuff in real time as well as post all the stuff in Discord. So the 15-minute high-low fib down to the 1618, we notified a 5-minute doji reversal, got in long over the 1618 and back to the GP. So that trade worked out very well. And again, on the Express accounts where we always post entries, exits, all the good stuff, we ended up running up a solid about $5,300 day in total. My man Kenny here doing some fantastic greens across his Express accounts. We had a couple of our P&Ls here, again, all Express accounts, all 5Ks, doing pretty good. Not too shabby at all. Other members killing it. So let's get into a couple different things about the day. Now, of course, as we see here, I was over under the GP, especially for those long targets as we were cooking to the upside towards yesterday's highs. And if we would have got that further breakout, well, let's talk about it. So the news was the heavy with the tweets, right? More tariff, more EU talking crap, so on and so forth as the day played out, right? So my last initial thought process for our group was over under the GP. I said if it holds this GP, and I was looking for the doji here at the end of the day. Let's clean this up a little bit, or start of the day, or end of a stream rather. This doji right here, 920. We had a perfect doji that hit a lot of good contact points. I teach you those contact points on our Saturday live lessons. You can give those a shot if you want to look at the channel and tell you how I do these things every Saturday, noon Central Time. We teach. So this doji became a high-low for a fib to hold the GP and potentially make it up to the 1618. Now, we didn't do that. We got some static EU news, tariffs, Trump tweets, you name it. And of course, it was more of an impulsive sideways day where we weren't going to get a whole lot because obviously tomorrow we got the Pow Man, a little bit of data. And above all, it is a holiday week. And generally speaking, the holiday week ends green, low volume climb up. And just because we put in a couple consolidation days here to start doesn't mean we can't attack that upside further into tomorrow with the news, with the Powell, and so on and so forth, right? If you're looking at this chart side by side for the last 2 days trading, we're not really making any headway long or short. We're just consolidating, waiting for that news. And sometimes that happens. We get choppy days, especially on holiday weeks. One of the things that we love to do on the GP now is what I said in the Discord in the earlier part of this video was return to it. So let's talk about some of the trades we made money on today from the pre to the live. So in the pre-market, we've seen some really choppy nonsense. We called a short here and a long. And when we got that breakdown short under the VWAP and 100 EMA in the green, so on the 5-minute chart here, we snapped through the 100 EMA green moving average, the 200 SMA 5-minute dashed peach line right there. That is another 200 SMA. And then we went slamming down, right? And when we made this big fresh low, we actually longed it right here because of returning back to the GP. So what is the prior day GP? Well, you take that Fibonacci, you attach it to the high low of the prior day, you end up getting this beautiful golden pocket between the 61.8 and the 38.20. And a lot of the time, pre-market to live over here, we generally look for the live tags of that GP. So if yesterday's high-low gives us this beautiful pocket, and in the pre-market, we do a hard sell and we are under that pocket, right? You see price action clearly down here at 536.40. I had a sneaking suspicion we would at least slam back up to the GP. So that's where we made most of our money today on the 5 grand green, was to run it pre-market back to a live tag of the GP. Now, a couple things happened here in the GP. Let's talk about it. So, we have this data for you guys for first tags and magnets. Now, from pre-market to live, notice where we opened right here, okay? Now, a couple things should have startled you here about this open. We opened right here, right? 8:30 a.m. Central for me, above the GP 50 of yesterday, right? So that high low we just went over of yesterday's 50 is right here. We didn't actually tag that. And the live trading, of course, pre in the green, live in the black. Notice there's a gap right there. Notice down here, clearly, we are very far away from the 38.20. So we missed the 50 and the 38.20 and did a big old rip rally up. Now, algos don't really like not magneting one way or the other to the 50, which means if the price action opens and we did not tag that 50, because again, we longed pre-market, ran it up to the GPs, but we opened in the top channel of that golden pocket. And I channel these like this. It's the 50 up to the 61.8. That's a channel, right? So we opened up in the top channel. Obviously, this would be the bottom between the 38.20 and the 50. But that opening candle never hit like we just discussed. Another big thing I put out today for our crew is, my friends, VWAP never hit. Usually we get a first VWAP tag out of the gate to continue trend potentially. We also did not get that. So we got a perfectly timed little news tweet boost by the EU there. Talking about tariffs, and we slammed down. Where did we slam down to and make this doji? Well, we slammed right through the VWAP, right into the 100 EMA for a little bit of bounce back and forth, right into the 200 SMA and the GPs. Now remember, 50 is the end all be all. And of course, we didn't hit that at the open, so we had to return back to it. And interestingly enough, we got news to do that, right? It doesn't have to do that. We're talking about statistics and probabilities. There's not a single thing in the markets that will always do that. Because one of my favorite sayings that I was taught very early on is the market always does that until it doesn't. So never bank on anything being 100%. No such thing, because everybody be millionaires. Very simple. So as we go into this dump of news in the EO and we see that it came slamming down into the 50, okay, that's precedent for a long. So I was back to the long buy saying, all right, well, if we get another opportunity to kind of hold these GPs, we're going to move up to that Doji's 1618, and potentially the best case scenario would be yesterday's highs. And then, of course, our targets for the week way up here, 547. Market didn't want to do that after that shoddy little news. We went back into a full consolidation and nastiness. Now, I did this doji for my crew right here, and I said, all right, guys, high-low it. It's a cool-looking doji. We're hitting a lot of good stuff here. VWAPs, 100 EMA, 200 SMA. And I want you guys to focus on over-under that 50, okay? Because most likely it's going to be very close to the daily 50, which the 38.20 is on this doji's high-low fib. Now, we came up to that GP, broke out, but just couldn't quite make it to target 542.62 for the scalp. Pretty close, but not quite there totally. Now, if you look on later in the day, the market kind of got spooked by that news, I feel, and also leaving an open 38.20. So again, looking at all the price action here in the morning, even with the big wash news EU and that jolt wick down, we still do not have an actual tag on the 38.20 bottom of the GP. So when we started seeing the high a day stack up to a lower high trap consolidation to another lower high and finally kind of breaking structure here, it was kind of game over. We got lower high, lower low break there. All this consolidation range was snapped into this low, back to that GP from the doji, and we just could not hold it. So we failed the 100, which is the top of this doji fib. And once we got sucked into that Fibonacci, we had to complete it, because you hear me talk a lot about Fibonacci box completion. So when we draw our high, low, and fibs and the price action starts from our draw point, it came up here and filled that top and just could not get over 541 to save its life. So the second it finally gave up, and this is what I told my crew after 10:30, 11 is where you're probably going to get the big move. Well, here's your 11 a.m. There's finally the continuation move. Not the easiest day to chop through by any means. Now, when we did start breaking, though, inside the doji fib box we put on, what are we going to do with that? Well, the structure break was here, and once we got a lower low from this consolidation that we just talked about here, came down to the GP, it popped and then gave us another lower high, thus confirming extra weakness on trend after that structure break to lower high move. So if you got trapped inside this fancy doji fib, once we broke under 541, we had a great chance to go to 538.13, which is the bottom of this doji for the fibs. Well, lo and behold, that 38.20 is very close. So we ended up filling all the way back down to the golden pocket of yesterday. These are why these Fibonacci points are so important. Let's take a look at, last but not least, the volatility index VIX, also known as my biggest pain in the butt. Not doing a whole lot today, but I do want to express some rules here. When the volatility is high, right, the VIX is high, the fear is high, and we've been coming off that 60 run for quite some time, lower high, lower lowing, and we gave it, you know, a low target yesterday of 30.38. We ended up hitting that low target of yesterday's action perfectly. That's the low of yesterday, and it ramped back up to the fib. And then today I wanted to break into 30.38 and then come down to 27.86, which would have netted us a very good up break chance because we were going to come back down to the daily gap that the VIX left, and that guy is right here into that mid 24. So I was really hoping we'd crack that and come to the GP of this candle, which is the gap candle. That's the bottom of that candle there. So the candle daily is 4.3. The bottom of that is the gap. I wanted to break back down into that gap and the GP of that 4.3 candle, but we couldn't quite get down there, which perfectly fine, no big deal. It has volatility. We're back and forth. We got tweets, we got EU, and so on and so forth. But one of the big things I want to do here is talk about the, you know, how high the VIX is. If it's in your 30s, I generally don't look for long follow through initiative on the market. That's really easy to kind of break up and run unless you get some kind of weird Trump news tweet that you cannot plan for, guys. Like if you got chopped up today in some of that news, there's no planning for it. We're sitting here as traders doing our TA, watching our stuff, and as long as we cannot, or as long as we don't oversize and position ourselves into a mass amount of risk, that would be the way to trap yourself. If you're playing one MNQ, little micro, one little MES, and you're doing good, awesome. Keep with that flow. But don't be sizing up when the VIX is in 30. I don't care if the VIX is chopping like this and the market's manipulated, because the market didn't even drop super crazy. It went down, 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 but the VIX didn't even pop at all, right? So we know that the market is in a thinking phase where this consolidation is kind of waiting on Powell tomorrow, I think, along with a little bit of data and, of course, holiday week, which I still think can pop very easily. I just think it needed another burn day, burn up those poor option players. But something to keep in mind is that high VIX, 30 some dollars, you're not going to get easy follow through to the upside. You're going to get easier follow through to the downside. Now you can see that where the high VIX, you know, sets in all morning here, 9, 10, 11 a.m. Central for me. It just cannot get over this 541. It's struggling. And the VIX can't really do much either. The VIX isn't giving us any kind of clear signals here. She's popped and then it just chopped the same. But the fact of the matter is the VIX is still at 30 some dollars, which is going to make it very hard for our poor SPY ES trades and NQ that we always do all day, every day. It's all we do is trade feuds. You know, we're not going to be moving over here in the market. So if the volatility index is waiting to go down, it's doing another burn day consolidation, and the VIX is still being at 30, we're still going to have a heavier, dominant, easier move to that downside, and that kind of being in the back of your head until the VIX is into the teens, and we're talking under 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, so on and so forth. I don't even bother looking for the beautiful uptrend plays during that market time. Pre-market's a little different. We don't have a lot of volume holding us down, and it's a little different when the ETF is not full open, all 500 stocks. You know, for that long that we had this morning here that we had played out, that was good, but different rules apply for pre-market to live trading. So I do want you guys to keep that in mind. And I hope you guys didn't get chewed up too bad. You know, even for us to hit a nice 5K day off this nonsense, was a lot of it was developed off that low call that we had made. We scalped a couple other things here, and I didn't really have anything else. We ended up locking out by probably 9:30 this morning, an hour after that market open, because it was just so gnarly looking. So locking in that green, you know, that's the way to be. Get it off the table, get it in your pocket, get it out of the market. All right, guys, if you want to see me trade this stuff live, you want to come hang out in our chat, we stream this stuff live every single morning right on Zoom screen share and our Discord chat where all the pre-market magic happens, all the live trading happens. We got multiple traders there in a talented community. Links in the description. If you want to win a free Top Step account, we give away 50 to 100 bucks every Saturday noon Central Time. Subscribe to the channel, drop comments, your chance to win 50 bucks. I don't care. You don't got to buy a Top Step account. Take your wife out for dinner, do whatever you want to do with it, but it's a free 50 as long as you sub and you just drop a simple comment. That's it. We're trying to grow the community. So we appreciate you guys for stopping in. If you want me to cover anything else, please drop in a comment and tag, and we'll talk to you then. Thanks.